At the beginning of the movie, we will be introduced to a group of American mercenaries named Black Swan. The leader of Black Swan is an old man named William Lewis. That particular morning, the Black Swan team was sent to Georgia to secure a gas pipeline installation project so that everything would run smoothly. Apparently, they were sent there by a British SAS officer named George Clements. Clements told William that they had to guard this gas pipeline project until it was completed regardless of the obstacles that might arise. Clements also explained that some civilians whose land did not want to be sold for the project would definitely be a threat to the Black Swan team. Upon hearing this, William said that Clements didn't need to worry because his daughter, Grace, would not hesitate to kill the people if it was necessary. Shortly afterwards, the Black Swan approached the villagers and sure enough, they immediately attacked the civilians and a shootout ensued. At one point, Grace gave orders to her team to not hesitate to kill all citizens, especially men, but to keep women alive as a means of terror so that they would understand the ferocity of the Black Swan. The battle continued until nightfall and many civilians were killed. At that moment, the Black Swan team did not realize that their atrocities had been recorded by one of the villagers. The scene switches to London, England, where we are introduced to a member of the SAS or British Special Forces, named Tom Buckingham. Tom came to a castle to retrieve a ring left by his parents that had been stored in the castle. Apparently, Tom planned to propose to his girlfriend in the near future. On the other hand, the footage of the massacre committed by Black Swan has now gone viral on various social media, and the whole world has strongly condemned it. Other countries also suspected that the UK was the one who had sent the Black Swan team, considering that the gas pipeline project was a British government project. Therefore, the Interpol then made a red notice or a direct order to the SAS to eliminate the entire Black Swan team if it was true that the UK was not involved. Meanwhile, in his office, the British Prime Minister told Clements to mobilize British SAS troops to eliminate the Black Swan team, as it was the only way for Britain not to be considered a joint crime, considering that the British name had been tarnished in the world's eyes. The scene then moves to the hospital where we are introduced to a doctor named Sophie. Sophie was surprised by the arrival of her boyfriend, Tom. Tom told her that he had bought plane tickets for the two of them to take a vacation to Paris. Tom secretly planned to propose to Sophie there after he got his leave. While they were chatting, Tom suddenly was assigned by his superiors at SAS to surround the Black Swan, who was now in a certain house. Meanwhile, Grace, who also had a spy inside the SAS, got the news that Clements and the Prime Minister had broken the contract with the Black Swan, and Grace also knew that the British would send their SAS troops to massacre their team. The leader of the Black Swan, William, as well as Grace's father, then told Grace and other Black Swan members to immediately flee to America through Paris, while he and several guards would try to hold off the SAS troops. A few hours later, Tom came to the Black Swan headquarters pretending to be an officer from the cleaning department who would check every house. Those whose houses were the cleanest would then get an award from the cleaning department. However, the woman who was indeed a member of the Black Swan sent Tom away on the grounds that her house was in disarray. In the end, Tom finally succeeded in knocking her out. We are introduced to a major named Bissett who is assigned by the Prime Minister to lead the mission to capture the Black Swan team. Major Bissett emphasized to his SAS troops not to be too brutal and to avoid any casualty. But unfortunately, the situation in the field did not match Major Bissett's expectations. The SAS troops were immediately attacked by the Black Swan team. In the end, the SAS troops managed to corner William, the leader of the Black Swan. However, Clements could not find Grace there, so he immediately ordered his troops to continue to search the house until they found her. Once his troops left, Clements killed William without a second thought. Meanwhile, Tom and his friend continued to look for Grace until they saw a woman who looked like Grace. However, it was not her and she was planning to detonate a bomb, but before she could detonate the bomb, Tom shot her and the grenade she was holding exploded. Luckily, Tom and his friend managed to avoid the explosion by jumping out of the window. After the mission was completed, Major Bissett was upset at Tom, as he was considered to have violated operational procedures. He had even taken the life of a woman. Despite Tom's explanation that he was only defending himself, Bissett still blamed him. As a result of his actions, Tom was immediately suspended from duty for a while. As soon as Bissett left him, instead of feeling sad about being suspended, Tom was elated that he could finally take a vacation with his girlfriend, Sophie, to Paris. Tom's close friend Declan appreciated Tom's decision when he heard that Tom was going to propose to Sophie. While joking, Declan also said that Tom should have children soon. The scene then switches to the hospital. Tom was being treated by Sophie for a scratch on his eyebrow. Tom then asked Sophie about the airplane ticket that he had previously given her, and she said that she didn't want to go to Paris by plane, she wanted to go there by train, so that they could enjoy their trip to Paris. As the story goes, Tom finally agreed to go by train with Sophie. On the same train, there was a woman in a wheelchair who was about to go to the toilet, and she was actually Grace. Grace and her team intended to take revenge on the British by destroying the gas pipeline above the railroad tracks. A few moments later, a train attendant who was also going to the toilet knocked loudly on the toilet door, which annoyed Grace. She then killed the attendant violently. Tom, who also happened to be going to the toilet, saw her coming out of the toilet. When Tom checked the toilet, he was very surprised to find a lifeless train attendant. Tom then contacted Declan, who was currently at the SAS office, to inform him that Grace was on the same train as him and was going to Paris. New fact is revealed. It turns out that Major Bissett is the one who has been leaking internal information to the Black Swan. Grace, who had received information from Bissett, took immediate action by hijacking the train. The rest of the Black Swan team then turned off the security cameras and electricity and set off smoke bombs. A few moments later, firefighters came to inspect the train, but it turned out that the firefighters were the Black Swan members in disguise. Tom realized that they were Black Swan team, so he decided to fight them even though he was alone. An explosion then occurred, after which Tom rushed to Sophie to make sure she was okay. Tom then contacted a member of the Central SAS to ask why the help from the SAS had not yet arrived. A short while after that, the Black Swan team combed the train looking for Tom, but fortunately Tom had already made it out of the train. Tom then contacted Declan again and told him that the Black Swan team had gathered disguised as firefighters. Tom also managed to photograph Grace and then sent the photo to Declan, but again, Major Bissett asked for the photo and promptly informed Grace. On the other hand, some members of the Black Swan were preparing to drill a tunnel on the train, because it was known that above the tunnel was a gas pipeline that they planned to blow up with a bomb they had prepared. Grace then received information from Major Bissett that there was one of the SAS members named Tom who happened to be on the train. Major Bissett also informed that the Black Swan team should immediately kill him, as he would be quite troublesome. Upon learning about this, Grace ordered her men to search for Tom and confiscate all the cell phones from the passengers on the train. Sophie smartly stuffed her cell phone into her shoe and gave away the other person's cell phone who had been shot dead. In the meantime, the media in the UK have been reporting on the train hijacking that was currently being carried out by the Black Swan. On the other hand, the Prime Minister, who was very fed up with the Black Swan's behavior, then ordered Clements to directly lead the SAS operation and assigned him to immediately eliminate the Black Swan team. The scene then switches to Grace cruelly killing one of the passengers for no apparent reason and accidentally shooting one of the little girls next to the man she shot. Grace then ordered the passengers who had expertise in the medical field to treat the little girl. Apparently Grace planned to turn the girl into Black Swan troops in the future. Sophie then offered to treat the girl and said that she needed a trauma kit and water. Grace allowed Sophie to take the child to the restroom, as that was where the trauma kit she needed was kept. At the same time, Major Bissett and his men finally arrived at the train tunnel. They then immediately prepared for the attack, then went to the train that was currently being hijacked. A few moments later, Clements also arrived and stated that he was in command. Major Bissett, who we knew was in cahoots with Black Swan, objected to Clements' statement, who all of a sudden wanted to take command. Clements then explained that he was directly ordered by the Prime Minister. Tom, knowing that Sophie was in the toilet, tried to get Sophie to get off and go with him, but Sophie refused and told Tom to take the little girl instead. Sophie wanted to stay on the train because she wanted to help the injured passengers. Sophie then asked Tom to hit her on the head so she wouldn't be suspected. In the meanwhile, the SAS troops began to move against the Black Swan, as well as the Black Swan group. They were ready to fight, because they had previously received information from Major Bissett. The firefight finally took place. Many SAS members were shot dead by the Black Swan team. The SAS troops then retreated and some members reported to Clements about the existence of traitors in the SAS. They assumed so, because the enemy seemed to have known about their arrival. At the same time, Grace suddenly contacted the SAS troops. Grace gave two options to the British. The first, the British had to admit to the public that they were the ones who had hired the Black Swan to kill the people in Georgia Village, and the second option was, the British were willing to give them $500 million. At Grace's request, Clements chose to give her $500 million, on the condition that the Black Swan should also release the hostages. Elsewhere, Tom, who was still with the little girl, asked her to go alone to the end of the tunnel, where there were already SAS troops who would save her. But suddenly, several members of the Black Swan arrived and a shootout ensued. On the train, Grace attempted to interrogate Sophie about who had taken the girl, and Sophie said that she didn't know. Sophie became even more cornered when Grace found out that the cell phone she had previously given away was not hers. On the other hand, Tom, who knew that Black Swan's plan was to destroy the gas pipeline, then began to take down one by one of its members. Clements and Major Bissett then came to Grace. Needless to say, Grace killed Major Bissett, saying that she didn't like a traitor. A few moments later, an argument between Grace and Clements took place. Clements blamed Grace and her team for being incompetent in carrying out their duties, so that their mission was discovered by the public, when in fact the Prime Minister and himself had paid the Black Swan handsomely to massacre the villagers. Grace then asked Clements to get the $500 million within 30 minutes. Apparently one of Grace's men had recorded Clements' conversation about himself and the Prime Minister who had hired the Black Swan team. Grace then told her to post the video on social media. Back to Tom, who is currently contacting his close friend, Declan. Tom said that the Black Swan would still blow up this gas pipeline as an attempt of revenge, so the most important thing was not to give them money but to launch an immediate attack. After Tom's call, Declan then contacted someone who turned out to be Grace. As it turned out, Declan was also in cahoots with Grace. Declan told Grace that Tom would continue to hunt down the Black Swan, because Sophie, his girlfriend, was on the train. After getting this information, Grace then said that she didn't need SAS traitors like Declan or Major Bissett. Clements, who had remained silent, was listening to the conversation between Declan and Grace. Grace then gave a message to Tom, telling him to give up before they finished Sophie. Fortunately, on his way to meet Grace, Tom saw one of the Black Swan members and he took him hostage. When he met Grace, it turned out that the person being held hostage by him was Grace's brother, but this is what Grace did. Grace and her brother then took Sophie away through the gas pipeline to escape. Meanwhile, Tom kept chasing them to save his girlfriend. Grace's brother then told Grace to go ahead with Sophie, while he would try to hold off Tom. The fight between Tom and Grace's brother finally took place and Tom managed to defeat him. On the other hand, the SAS troops finally managed to rescue the hostages and brought them out. The surviving Black Swan members tried to disguise themselves as train passengers, but the SAS sniper troops had pocketed their identity and without any hesitation they immediately killed them all together.
Swan, white on green, Swan, blue on black, Sierra 5, Grace
In summary, all members of the Black Swan have been successfully eliminated. However, they were upset because Grace, the brain of the Black Swan, was still not caught. We cut to Grace, who was still trying to escape while taking Sophie with her. A few moments later, they were spotted by Tom and Tom immediately chased them. Grace, who felt cornered, then vented her frustration by exploding the bomb that had been installed in the gas pipe. The explosion apparently caused Clements and Declan to be hit by the rubble. As a result, Clements was seriously injured, then he tried to ask Declan for help, but Declan did not want to help him and preferred to rob $500 million. In the meantime, Grace hurt Sophie's leg and ran off, hoping Tom would stop chasing her. However, Tom continued to chase her after making sure that Sophie was okay, and Sophie also said that Tom didn't need to worry about her and should just go after Grace. Upon hearing this, Tom finally decided to continue to hunt Grace down. On the other hand, the whole world is currently focused on the British Prime Minister who has played dirty just for his own interests. This is due to the spread of Clements' previous video confession when arguing with Grace on the train. Elsewhere, Tom managed to corner Grace, but Grace did not give up. She tried to seduce Tom by saying that Tom was suitable to be the leader of the Black Swan. With his abilities, he would definitely be able to lead the Black Swan better. Tom thought a little about the offer, then this is what Tom did. Without any hesitation, he finished Grace off. At the end of the story, Tom finally proposed to Sophie in Paris. Unfortunately, the proposal was rejected by Sophie, which broke Tom's heart. It turned out that Sophie rejected Tom's proposal because she wanted to marry him right away. Tom and Sophie finally got married, and after their wedding, Tom was contacted by his boss, who informed him that Declan's whereabouts had now been found. Tom was tasked with reclaiming the $500 million that Declan had taken away. When Sophie heard this, she ordered her husband to arrest Declan, the traitor. The end.